Hi, I'm author Kim Severn. I'm a mom and a writer. I wrote a memoir about my experience becoming a mother and going through the adoption process, and I wanted to share a little bit of the story with you via audio today. I want to let moms and women who hope to become moms out there, at whatever stage of the journey you're in, know you are not alone. The feelings you're experiencing can feel so intense and bewildering, such extremes of joy and fear and anticipation. If you're out there feeling these feelings, I see you. I hope you can relate to my story. The making of a mom, meeting our baby. Waiting to meet our daughter for the first time, I tried to make sense of two distinct realities. For a few sweet moments at a time, I lived in a peace-filled bubble created by the love I felt for a newborn baby girl. The bubble muffled the noise and blocked the emotions of everyone else. It was the same endorphin rush I had felt when I first held Theo, and just as then, time seemed to stand still as I took in the glory of new life. It was all about the family Nate and I were creating, our family that had just grown from 3 to 4. And then there was the reality of how we'd achieved our dream. This reality included the experiences Danielle, Mark, Kathy, and Dan were living. Their experience bumped up against me, poking a tiny hole in my bubble, letting escape a bit of the peaceful air surrounding me. They were all excited to greet the baby they'd created and welcome her to the world, but we were there, interrupting their celebrations. How was I supposed to honor their experience? How was I supposed to stay out of the way and let them have their special time? How could I get the time to begin to show our daughter how much she was loved? How could I honor both realities? After hearing that everything was okay in the operating room, we made our way to the postpartum ward where the nursery was located. There we all were, Nate, my dad, Kathy and Dan standing in the hallway, looking just like any other extended family waiting to meet the newest member of theirs. We all silently jockeyed for position in front of the 2 large nursery windows. Each of us stood in anticipation of the moment we would see our baby for the first time. Anxiety hung in the air like a heavy fog, everyone aware of it, but no one impacted enough to acknowledge it. There I was, after over a year of waiting, holding Nate's hand, squeezing it from time to time in silent attempts to release the nervous energy and excitement that grew with each passing minute. I couldn't wait to cradle my baby in my arms, see her face, feel her tiny hand wrap around my finger. Most of all, I couldn't wait to touch my lips to her soft cheek and whisper in her ear, "Welcome to the world, my little one. I'm your mommy, and I love you." I wondered at the depth of love and attachment I felt for the baby girl who had grown in another woman's womb. It was by pushing through the emotional turmoil, dashed hopes, and a strong commitment to my dream that I had gestated our baby into being. The tears, physical pain created by fear, anxiety, and frustration were the labor I had experienced to bring our daughter into our family. It had been so stressful, so confusing, and so infuriating at times, but none of it mattered anymore. I would do it all again, 1,000 times, if it brought me to this moment I was about to experience. As the nurses and doctors came and went from the patient rooms that lined the hallway, my dad stepped away from our little group to talk quietly on his cell phone with my mom. He let her know everyone was fine, Reese was here, and promised to be home soon to watch Theo so she could come meet her newest grandchild. I finally caught his eye and said, "Please make sure Theo is okay for me, okay?" I wanted our son with us, but I knew it was best to wait until later in the day to introduce him to his new sister. None of us was entirely sure what would happen over the next few hours. Kathy and Dan were only a few feet away, silently awaiting the first look at their first grandchild. I wondered what was going through her mind. I wondered what the correct protocol was, whether or not we should let them meet the baby before we did. I wondered if she resented me being there, resented that I was going to be her granddaughter's mom. I didn't know what the right thing was to do and had no clue what she was thinking. All I knew for sure was that I could hardly stand to wait another minute to meet my daughter. We heard footsteps and the sound of wheels along the linoleum of a hallway we couldn't see. Everyone tensed and peered into the nursery. A moment later, a door at the back of the nursery opened, and a baby lying peacefully in a clear acrylic bassinet was wheeled in front of the window. The anonymous newborn was tightly swaddled in a white hospital-issued receiving blanket with a plain white cap on its head. We all instinctively oohed, and I looked at Kathy. "Do you think that's our girl?" It was hard to tell. There was no name tag visible, no outward sign of whether the baby was a boy or a girl. As the nurse checked on the newest resident of the nursery, Mark joined us in the hallway. "That's Sarah," he said to the group of us before turning to face Nate and me directly. "You can go in and see her, but you have to wash your hands before you touch her." "Thank you, Mark," I said as I reached up to give him a quick hug before grabbing Nate's hand and pulling him toward the nursery door. The nurse greeted us with a smile. "I understand you want to meet this beautiful baby girl," she said, indicating the baby we'd all just seen through the windows. I wondered if she knew who we were and why we were so anxious to meet her. I wanted everyone to know that our beautiful baby girl was here, and I'd tell anyone willing to listen that I was a mom for the second time. "We do," I said as tears sprung to my eyes. "We're her parents and can't wait to hold her. Is there a sink where we can wash our hands, please?" "Absolutely. It's over in the corner. You can sit in here for as long as you'd like, and if you want privacy, feel free to pull the curtain." She gestured to the curtain pressed back along the far wall and nearly out of sight. "I'll wheel the baby over while you get settled." "Thanks," I whispered, afraid to speak and release the torrent of tears waiting to fall. I quickly washed my hands and sat down in the high-backed wooden rocking chair sitting next to the sink. Nate washed his hands, reached into the bassinet, and placed our daughter in my arms. I stared down at our baby as tears of joy and relief streamed down my cheeks and fell onto her blanket. She was beautiful and absolutely perfect. Her eyelids and tiny eyelashes glistened from the medicine the nurses had applied after she was born. She was so small, a little over 5.5 pounds. I held my breath as my breasts began to ache, just like they had when Theo was born. Our daughter was finally here. I held her tightly in my arms, slowly rocking back and forth. After a few minutes, she opened her eyes and looked at me. I looked down into big, round, dark blue eyes that looked so familiar, although I had never seen them before. "Can you get a picture of us?" I asked Nate when I was finally willing to take my eyes off her. The tears had subsided and were replaced with a smile so wide my cheeks ached. I knew I needed to share her, but I didn't want to let her go, not even to let Nate hold her. I had waited so long to meet her. I had dreamt of her all my life, and she was finally here. There it was again, a little pinprick to my bubble as the reality of adoption broke through the magic of the moment. We wouldn't have custody until Danielle and Mark went before the judge and signed away their parental rights. That was days away. I knew they could change their minds. They could decide to try to keep custody of their daughter, or could even decide they didn't want us as her family. I was devastated by the thought of either of these possibilities. I was already deeply in love with the baby girl in my arms. I looked back down into her big blue eyes and knew that there was no way I could let that happen. But what if I had no choice? What if Joyce dropped another bombshell on us and they took this baby from us? We were just tottering on the edge between a prayer and a court ruling, and I was scared to death. Thanks for listening to this audio excerpt of The Making of a Mom. For more information, visit our website at longestdaypress.com. Thanks again for listening.